Preface. 2. Memorial Edition. After Richard Burton left Mecca, he returned up the Red Sea to Egypt, and after a short rest, to Bombay. The East India Company Service had long wished to explore Somali-land in Abyssinia because Berberah, its chief port, is far better than Aden, as Harar, its capital, was the most difficult place, and no white man had ever succeeded in entering it, the whole country being then inhabited by a most dangerous race to deal with. He obtained leave to go there as a private traveler, the company agreeing to allow him his pay, but no government protection. He applied for 3 other Anglo-Indian officers, amongst them Lieutenant Speke, to tell off to different employments on the coast. Speke was to go to Bundarguri to buy horses and camels, Hearn was to go to Berberah on another errand, and Stroyan on a third errand was to meet him there, whilst Richard Burton was to do the dangerous part, i.e., plunge into the country and enter Harar. 12 First footsteps in East Africa. As an Arab merchant, this was one of his most splendid and dangerous expeditions, and the least known, partly because his pilgrimage to Mecca was in every man's mouth, and partly because the excitement aroused by the Crimean War had to a large extent deaden the interest in all personal adventure. He disappeared into the desert for 4 months, but this unnoticed, unknown journey has been of great importance to the Egyptians, to the English, and now to the Italian army. The way was long and weary, adventurous and dangerous, but at last the dreadful city was sighted, and, relying on his good star and audacity, he walked boldly in, sending his compliments to the emir, and asking for audience. His diplomacy on this occasion, his capacity for passing as an Arab, and his sound Mohammedan theology gave him 10 days in the city, where he slept every night, in peril of his life. The journey back was full of peril, the provisions being only 5 biscuits, a few limes, a few lumps of sugar, and a single skin of water. They passed through a terrible desert, such as Grant Allen describes when relating the journey of Muhammad Ali and Ivan Royal from Eagle City through the desert to Carthage. When Richard, however, had made up his mind that he would soon become food for the desert beasts, for he had been 36 hours without water, could preface to the Memorial Edition. 13 go no further, and was prepared to die the worst of all deaths. A bird flew by him, and, plunging down 100 yards away, showed him a charming spring, a little shaft of water about 2 feet in diameter, in a margin of green. Man and beast raced to it, and drank till they could drink no more. By dodging his enemies, he at last reached the coast of Berberah, where he found his 3 comrades, and where he and the wretched mule were duly provided for, and he says he fell asleep, conscious of having performed a feat which, like a certain ride to York, will live in local annals for many and many a year. But he would not ledge well alone. He wanted to make a new expedition, northwards via Harar, on a large and imposing scale, and he went and came back from Aden with 42 armed men, established an agency and a camp in a place where he could have the protection of an English gunboat which brought them, but unfortunately the government drew off the gunboat, and 300 of the natives swarmed round them in the night and tried to throw the tents down and trap them like mice. They fought desperately, but Speke received 11 wounds, poor Stroyan was killed, Hearn was untouched, and Richard Burton, sabering his way through the crowd, heard a friendly voice behind him, hesitated for a moment, and received a javelin through both cheeks, carrying 14 First footsteps in East Africa, away 4 teeth and transfixing the palate. He could not draw it out on account of its barb, and had to wander up and down on the coast for hours from night to daylight. They all managed to escape to the water's edge, where they hailed a native craft which was just sailing out, and to whose master and crew Richard fortunately had shown great hospitality. They picked them up and managed to extract the javelin and K-nd up his jaws till they reached Aden. They were so badly wounded that they had to return to England, and as soon as he recovered, he proceeded to the Crimea. Every word of this narrative is full of interest, and ought to be especially so at the present moment. To the Italian army, which now occupies the country, that was in those days so difficult to enter. Isabel Burton, January 25, 1894.